This is gonna be one of the heavier topics we've ever covered. I'm sorry, guys. You do a series like this long enough, eventually you're gonna have to cover a topic that not everybody is 100% comfortable talking about. It's just... this is something that's been on my mind a lot lately, and I do mean a lot. However, I ask you all to bear with me for just a little bit, because while I have gone on a bit of a mental journey lately, it actually wound up somewhere pretty positive, so... while this may initially seem like a bit much to bear, know that it does have a happy ending.
Total Biscuit has been diagnosed with terminal cancer. I just figured I'd start off with that statement this week instead of beat around the bush and get to it eventually, because when you combine that with the passing of Ralph Baer in 2014 and Satoru Iwata succumbing to a tumor earlier this year, it finally sunk in for me that video games as an art form are getting older, and I don't just mean in the technical sense. With over 4 decades under our belts, we certainly have a storied history of leaving less powerful machines behind to embrace the future, but we're still so young that it's only now we're seeing the really important people in this art form start to leave us as well. Needless to say, this realization has been pretty sobering for me. I mean, I never even really considered it before. Guys like Shigeru Miyamoto and Ed McMillan have become such an integral part of why I like video games that the industry would just feel empty without them. But they're going to stop making games eventually, for one reason or another. Nintendo Capri-sun is one of my favorite Let's Players, but he's old enough to be my dad, at least my uncle. And in light of recent events, I'm faced with the fact that these guys won't always be there. There will come a day where the creator of Mario will no longer be among us, and that's a really depressing thought. But here's the way I look at it. While he is still making games, all this knowledge will do is make me appreciate them even more. After all, getting older isn't all bad. What's cool about the state of games now is that we're past all our growing pains. Think about the history of comic books. When they came out, they were seen as colorful, wacky, and kid-friendly, but they were so approachable that their popularity took off. As times changed and tastes evolved, comics started to push the boundaries and tell stories that the more mature audiences they knew were there would appreciate. This, of course, led to controversy, which in turn led to the institution of the Comics Code Authority. Nobody really sees that as a detriment anymore, though. It's just a label that dictates who the target audience is for this particular story. And nowadays, comics touch on all kinds of subjects that people are finally opening up to. Several characters are either homosexual or transgender, including some of the more famous ones. There are tons of comics that challenge you intellectually and give you a different perspective that you might never have considered before. Now, do you think they could have gotten away with any of that back in the days of the Golden Age? Probably not, because the medium was still young and people just weren't ready for it yet. Is any of this sounding familiar? I'd hope it would, because if the popularity of channels like Super Bunny Hop, Satch Bag, and Extra Credits are any indication, it shows that ours is an audience that's got an interest in looking deeper into this medium, of questioning the reason behind the choices developers make, and how we can use that insight to further improve. Those kids who spent all day arguing over whether the SNES or the Genesis was better are now more than old enough to be programmers themselves, and put those principles to the test. And they will be tested, mark my words, because like any creative medium, the more knowledgeable you are about it, the more you'll potentially shine among your peers. So important is our history to both those who have been here for a while and those who are just coming in that there are sites entirely dedicated to video game archival. And from AAA publishers to small indie guys, everyone's in a race to be the one to take their art that one step further into the future. So where does that leave me in all this? I think part of the reason I felt the need to make this episode is because, well, I won't lie, when you've already sunk a year into your work professionally and almost 4 casually, only to turn around and find out a guy who wasn't even legal drinking age when he started is doing it 30 times better than you, yeah, that can be a little disheartening. It can make you feel like you're doing something wrong, like you're falling behind, like you just don't get it because you're too old and your way of thinking is out of date. Then you're reminded of how mortal you really are several times, and it starts to feel like you're just out of time and you'll never catch up. And the scary part? You can never be 100% sure how accurate that assumption is. Or maybe I just haven't joined their ranks yet because I'm still learning. Still looking for new ways to improve my humor and editing techniques. Still trying new things with art and assets and researching programs that can make creating them easier. Still listening to feedback to find out what you guys look forward to when I put out a video and how to not only deliver on but also surpass those expectations as much as possible. Yeah, I'm a bit of an old soul, but f*** me if I'm not using every second I've got left on this earth to become something resembling a wise one too. So unless I get hit by lightning or something, I assure you, my work is far from finished.
And on that note, I'd actually like to extend some thanks to all of you guys. Like, you actually inspired me to start taking better care of myself. Like, I've been working out in the mornings and the evenings now, and not just my body either, like my brain too. I picked up a copy of Brain Age not too long ago, just started playing through, helped keep myself sharp. I've replaced a lot of my old snacks with things that are better for me, like yogurt, or, you know, those glass jars of peanuts you can just pour yourself a handful, pop it in your mouth. That's like my go-to snack these days, unsalted of course. Now, who knows, maybe this will actually reduce the chance of me getting sick in the future, make me have a better figure, better stage presence, keep myself sharp and focused, and give me the energy to do this kind of thing day in and day out. Because at the end of the day, you guys are watching this right now. Like, you took time out of your day to just sit there and watch me ramble and rant and go on and on and on about whatever frivolous thing I think is important. And for that, you deserve the absolute best. And that's what I'm going to continue to try to strive to provide you moving forward.